Alrighty, friends, we're back. It's your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly. This is episode number 687, and we are recording on September the 18th. Brianna, how are you doing?
I am good. How was your vacation?
Well, combo vacation work. So I was out in Victoria, British Columbia, big music, 3-day music festival called Rifflandia, which we were working with for Ground Level Insights, doing all the analytics on it. But obviously, it's a music festival, so it's super fun. And there were a lot of like great acts that I got to see. So Feist, TLC was one of the headliners. Well, there's only two members of TLC now. Uh,
Right.
but that was pretty cool, no scrubs and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool. We had just like a CNC Music Factory was there. So like some old hip hop kind of, vibes, and then some newer up and coming artists that were really cool. So it was a good mixture of stuff. So I had a good time.
It sounds amazing. And fun fact, once when we lived in Atlanta, Chili came into my husband's business, the cryotherapy place that we had, and he was like, "She's so nice and she looks so young and she's so beautiful." And I was like, "All right, all right, all right." But apparently she is the real deal. So it's cool that she still gets out there and performs.
Yeah, honestly, like I was impressed with her. Like they had these four like pro male dancers like that were incredible. Like they were doing
Yeah,
flips and jumps and all kinds of crazy stuff, and she was hanging with them.
awesome.
And I was like, what? Like, how can you do that? I get up in the morning and everything hurts. I'm
I
like,
know.
yeah, anyhow. Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we got good stories and I got a lot of opinions today.
All right. Kick us off. Kick us off. Let's do it.
All right, back to my old stomping grounds, Atlanta, well, suburb Atlanta, Roswell. There's a company called Connector Technologies. They are positioning themselves as a location-based AI-enabled business networking company. And they just did this launch of a mobile application. They did this in connection with Insight Media Enterprises at the Mopar Vendor Expo in Las Vegas, right? So this is an app. It's designed to really, they say, maximize the opportunities to connect with the people. They want to reduce those awkward cold introductions, identify potential people that might be a good fit for you to meet when you're at an event. And they have this for both Android and Apple devices. So they're trying to like build connections at any venue event. They mention airports, sporting arenas, professional career connections, all those things. So users can opt in to get notified when, maybe there's like a good connection. Think of it like a dating app, except not a dating app, just connecting for more career purposes. Um, and so users can opt in to get notifications. They can decide how they want to communicate. They can include their social media profiles, maybe your LinkedIn profile, website links, all those different things. And then they have something that's kind of interesting. One of their key features is called a value score grade. So basically, this says like how, based on your information and somebody else's information, how good of a connection could this potentially be for you? Some other features that they discussed, like if you're at an event, you could have a map and a list view, some profile management, flexible notification, and privacy controls. Um, all right, here's my opinion on this. I think having an event specific app is very complicated. I don't think it gets a lot of traction or adoption for as long as I've been in this industry, as long as I've been going to events. Think about like Ramp Up where we met back in the day, a million years ago. They had apps. Nobody really uses them, right? Um, I will also say I think that no one wants to meet and network in an airport. Like, sorry, hard pass. I'm like running from gate to gate, or like you're just trying to get to where you're going. It just seems a little bit awkward, maybe if you're stuck in the airport, but even then, it's still a little awkward. I think the people who are most likely to use this app are the people that most attendees want to avoid. And I feel like networking is kind of like dating at times, right? Like when you work for like a brand or a larger company, a lot of times you're kind of trying to avoid all the sales pitches that you're getting all the time. And I don't think that people are going to opt in to do this, right? also, I think that everyone wants to do AI and it's a buzzword for everything. Just say that we do AI and it's sexier. So that's my opinion on that. I wish them the best of luck. Um, I don't see this being like super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think every conference that I go to now has, some sort of app, right, that you download, and it has the, conference agenda, and, where the, the sessions are happening, and, if it's a large event, maps of the different buildings and venues and things like that. So, there's some value in that, because nobody wants to carry around a paper agenda, or, print, things like that anymore. So from that point of view, I think there's value there. But for the most part, what I see, because I go to a lot of conferences, as you do, is the apps that they're using are sort of platforms that have been developed by event, companies, and they're just skinned for, different events, but it's the same base functionality, the same app. They
Yeah.
just sort of reskin it, right? And so they're selling the same app to multiple conferences and events. So there's definitely, some scale and some value to that. I think on the networking side of things, I'll say this. So like, running a startup like Ground Level and going to events in a space, like sports marketing where, we're trying to sell into, but I don't come from that world. If you're able to see everybody who's there and you're able to send them a message and say, like, people that you want to have a discussion with or a chat with that you're trying to pitch or sell, I use that feature, right? And, I'd say that maybe 20% of the time people actually reply to that. So there's some value to that there. And I think, from a scoring perspective, or, evaluating the potential of a connection, yeah, I can say, okay, there's some value there, but this has to be something like I've said earlier, that, you built it in a way that it's just being used by hundreds of different conferences or apps out there, and kind of reskinned, and you're selling features. A friend of mine that I went to university with built a company here in Toronto called Grapevine 6, got acquired a few years ago by Seismic. And they focused on the financial services sector, banking and insurance, and investment, investment companies like Goldman Sachs and stuff. But what they did was is they mined all these social platforms, they mined all LinkedIn, and they would actually, sort of recommend, or prospect for you, through these social platforms, who you should actually be connecting with. So it wasn't location based per se, that you're at a conference or at an airport and hear people. This is, sort of just purely in a scoring sense or an algorithmic sense, coming up with, these are actually the people that you need to be connecting with. And then doing that outreach and crafting those messages and using AI to, sort of write some of those things or do some of those things. So I think there are good uses for, AI in networking. And I think there could be something that, of value here, but, I'm not quite seeing it in how it's been positioned so far. But, there's always room for, improvement. So love to hear more from these guys.
Yeah.
We
I
have
mean,
our
my
retail. Yeah.
final
Go ahead.
thought though, honestly, is like these are features or functionalities that like LinkedIn could just build into their platform. Everybody's already there. You already have the mass usage. Like acquire somebody and build this into a component or a feature of LinkedIn, right? Add
Yeah.
in the event stuff, add in the local connections, like all of those things would be possible there, and you've already got the mass reach. Like, I think just the barrier to entry and the friction of downloading a new app for every conference or just this extra app, like do things where they already are.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing with these other apps that are across multiple conferences. So I already have the app on my phone.
Yeah.
It's just when you, like, now are attending Shop Talk or whatever it is, you just log in with some new set of credentials into that app, and it reskins to Shop Talk, right?
Hmm.
And pulls up the relevant content. So like, I've already got the app. I have it, from other conferences, that kind of thing. So I think that's, where I could see some value here. But we have our Retail Local conference coming up in Atlanta, October
Yeah.
22nd and 23rd. Would love to just have these guys come out and show us what they're doing. And yeah, so reach out, guys, if you're listening or watching this, and let's have a conversation about it. Okay, on to our second story. So we're going to talk about Foursquare. We haven't talked about these guys for quite some time. they're still around, you know, the pioneers in geolocation data and technology. They've launched a new product they're calling sales impact attribution. And yeah, I think this is interesting. So they're still logging, you know, where people are going and measuring foot traffic analytics. And now they're sort of tying that to try to give you a sense of, you know, visitation metrics combined with, you know, attribution or like, you know, sales data from that point of view. So they say this new metric system called Foursquare Sales Impact includes 17 new metrics for detailed measurements and comparative analytics across the customer journey. Uh, Among the metrics are average basket size and sales lift. So they're you know they're trying to help you with, you know, campaign ROI. It also includes cross-channel attribution, so they're measuring campaigns across digital, social, audio, CTV, linear, and out of home. And just in terms of scale, their model includes 15 billion human verified check-ins, 2 billion transactions, and 83 billion visits per year. So there's a lot of data. There's a lot of, you know, scale behind, you know, what they're doing here. And we know, I think I would say, you know, from talking to all the retailers and the brands and agencies that, you know, we're in contact with, the attribution piece is what everybody's trying to get to. So you know, we've heard it from the retail media network discussion. We've heard it from, you know, the pure sort of ad targeting discussion. But everybody wants to, you know, obviously be able to say, did this campaign actually work? Did this data that we were, you know, targeting these ads to actually result in some ROI for us? And so I think if you can provide a platform with this kind of scale that Foursquare is talking about here, you're probably you know, in a good space. But good to see they're still at it. What are your thoughts?
All right, so I have a little bit of a different perspective
Okay.
here. I think attribution is really important. I think proving return on your media spend is key. But what I think is the missing component here is that Foursquare is not willing to use their data to help impact the outcome. And what I mean by that is that whenever you think about like targeting or propensity scoring or modeling off of data, that's not typically something that Foursquare opens the door and allows. And I think that that's the most important piece of the puzzle here, right? Like I can measure 16 different ways, but I actually need to impact how that outcome is. So if I can't utilize your platform, your data, into some type of a model to help me improve how I go about my campaign and my planning and my media spend and where I allocate my budget, to me, the measurement is much less interesting. So that's just like my short piece of
That's
feedback.
fair. Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
think if you want to make this sticky, you've got to be able to transition it to the influence, right? Like how do I actually shift the outcome with my data, not just measure
all right.
it.
Like it. Okay. Feisty. Let's go.
I told you I'm opinionated today. Sorry, guys. All right. Well, this is actually an interesting story. So Microsoft has a partnership that they've been working on for a little bit this year. They have partnered with an international charity that's called StopNCII. And this is to help tackle what is NCII, by the way, stands for non-consensual intimate imagery. So this is specifically on Bing. I mean, if you don't understand what that means, you know, you have some like photos that you and your significant other took together that somehow you did not consent to, or somebody took of you, or potentially even deep fakes that are generated by AI of you that are being shared online without your consent. Nobody wants that. That sounds terrible, right? So this Stop NCII platform is run by Southwest Grid for Learning, so adults can protect themselves against these intimate images. So they are creating, the way that they do that is they create this digital fingerprint of their images. And then the fingerprints can be used by Microsoft to detect any imagery that's out there on Bing. So they ran this pilot trial back in March, and since then they were able to, I guess, find and take out over 250,000 images. So they're also continuing to work with some multi-stakeholders, this working group that they have. So they have Center for Democracy and Technology, Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, and the National Network to End Domestic Violence, as well as U.S. Department of Commerce's National Institute of Standards and Technology and the AI Safety Institute. So they're trying to protect users. Anyone can request that, any nude or sexually explicit photos or images, or videos of themselves that have been shared without their consent. There's like a reporting portal, so you can say like, I want this taken down. So basically the way that it works is like they enable victims, they say, to create this hash or a digital fingerprint of images, without those images ever leaving their device. So this includes synthetic imagery, and then those hashes can be used by an array of industry partners to detect that imagery on their service and then take action in line with their policies. So Microsoft donated a capability called Photo DNA to support these efforts, and they're continuing to do this. I think this is interesting. One, I think it like they mentioned specifically adults can request this. Like, I wonder if there's a component for children that, no sensitive imagery of children should be out there at all, right? But are they doing something with that as well? And I also feel like a little torn about this. I would like to know more about how this hash or the digital fingerprint works. Like, I have to give you the sensitive images in order for you to then take the images down. That just seems like counterproductive to me. So I feel like there's just maybe a better way. Is there something that you can do with somebody's face, for example? And then if there's any sensitive images with my face attached to them, then I can just make sure they're not out there. I think that would be certainly more ideal. I would say the majority of us don't want any sensitive images of us out there, for public. And so I think that this is, it's a good effort. It's important. I question a little bit, like, do we want big tech to actually have a fingerprint of our sensitive images if they didn't already have them? Like, you don't even know if they're out there, but you're like, hey, I want to make sure they're not. But I think this is an important effort. I think we're more and more approaching a time and place in this world and technology where there's going to be like stuff that happens, and I imagine that at some point or another we're all going to be impacted by like what AI can come up with, right? So whether that's like imitating our voice, imitating our likeness, whatever it may be, I think there's reasons to be concerned and reasons to protect ourselves. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I really like this kind of technology, and I think this is a fantastic application. I think protecting this kind of imagery is incredibly important, and also for children. It's interesting. It's not new tech like this. I remember going to conferences, 5, 10 years ago, and there's companies out there, that were providing image, anti-fraud image kind of tech, around high-end brand goods, Gucci, bags, these kinds of things, spotting fake, use of the brands from an image recognition perspective, and then flagging those, from a fraud point of view. The same kind of technology you see in US and other international currencies. So the tech has been there for a while, and I think now with some of the AI capabilities to run it at scale, I think it becomes incredibly powerful in terms of what you can do there. I mean, it's interesting because as I was listening to your story, I was thinking the whole time about the Trump campaign with Taylor Swift imagery that was, some created, some, not, and it's, being able to protect your brand, being able to protect your image, whether it's an intimate image or, somebody's, reputation, like a celebrity, I think, has a lot of staying power. Maybe they should, ask her to, come and be a brand sponsor for this, this platform. I don't know, but I think there's a lot of power in it, and I applaud the effort. I think this is, when we talk about good uses of AI and image recognition technology, this is a really well executed one. And yeah, I'm with you. I mean, maybe there's a better way to sort of get a hold of a service like this without sort of having to upload your images somewhere. That part seems a little risky, but I applaud the effort.
Yeah.
Okay, final story, relatively short one. This is a bit of an update, but our friends at Home Depot have been very active in the retail media network space that we talk about all the time. And they've partnered or they've upgraded since the original launch of their network in 2018. Or earlier this year, they upgraded to or renamed it to they call it the Orange Apron Media Network now. And they've been working in partnership with a company called Pentaleap, which is one word, Pentaleap, on the sort of programmatic ad side of what they're doing. So essentially, they've seen a huge uptake in views and returns on their ad spend since they've been working with Pentaleap. And essentially, what they're doing is they're sort of using this to focus the ads using Pentaleap's intelligence system. Making sure the ads are relevant, making sure they're tailored to the shoppers that are actually in the shop or in near the screens that are seeing these. And again, it's all about, as everything about location-based marketing, it's all about positioning the ads to the right customers at the right place and time. But they're using algorithms to do this. The platform is called the Pentaleap Fluid Relevancy Engine. And like I said, they're seeing great results with this since they launched this back in March. Much more ROI on their ad spend in terms of the ads being actually relevant to the consumers in the store. So they didn't provide a lot of detail in the story, but I found it extremely relevant because we're seeing every retailer out there talking about having a media network. And exploring different types of ad delivery technologies. But you need to do that in a way where it's not just, hey, we sold an ad to Colgate and we're running an ad for Colgate because their product's available in our store. It has to be done in a way where there's relevancy. It's targeted to the consumers that are actually in the stores. And so not unlike, in some respects, what Foursquare is doing with their sales attribution data, trying to tie it back to, the visitation of consumers who are actually there. So I like this. The other thing is as I mentioned at the top of the show, we have our LBMA Retail Local Conference, October 22nd, 23rd. It's going to be in Atlanta. Obviously Home Depot is based there. So I'm just throwing a shout out here to you guys there. We would love to have you come and talk about this in the program on stage and your partnership. If you're willing to do that, reach out to us or I'll reach out to you guys and let's see if we can make that happen, because I think it's always great to see success stories and to share those and amplify those messages in terms of what you're doing.
Yeah, I like this story. I like that. From my understanding, I feel like Orange Apron has some big goals they're reaching for. They really want to be at the forefront of retail media networks, and I think there's a lot that they can do. I would love to see them take this technology and this offering to offsite media. So right now they're only focused, I think, all on their on-site media. I think there's such an opportunity to extend that, right? Like, I'm saying this selfishly, but how do you extend your audience and your measurement across lots of other places, right? Whether that's CTV or whether that's other digital buys or OLV, like how do you reach that Home Depot audience across many places? And continue obviously to make sure that you are putting the right ad in front of the right consumer at the right time. I think those are equally important features. So it's good to just hear how this commerce media network landscape is expanding and changing every day.
There you go. So that's our show for this week, everybody. You've been listening and watching episode number 687 of Location Weekly. We thank you as always for your time. If you have story ideas, please reach out to us. If we've talked about one of your companies or solutions on the show today, we'd love to hear more about it, or, tell us that we're full of shit and we don't know what we're talking about, correct us on that. Yeah. And give us some likes and love on whatever platform you're consuming this on. So we'll see you next week for another show. But until then, have a great one, and we'll enjoy it as well. So take care. Bye.
Bye.